Hey there, welcome to section 3.3, solving two-step equations. Our goal for today is I can solve multi-step equations using addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. The homework is actually not this. We know our homework is to try these problems on School of G. So first thing we want to do is we want to try these warm-up problems. This first one, we know in order to get x by itself, we have to divide by negative 0.5. When I divide by negative 0.5 on both sides, what I get is I get x by itself, and 6 divided by negative 0.5 will give us negative 12. On the second one, what we want to do is we want to multiply by the inverse. Now, the inverse of negative 1/3 is negative 3/1. I'm going to multiply this by negative 1/3, h. And I do that to both sides. So I multiply this side by negative 3/1. On the left side, I will have h. On the right side, I will get 2 times 3, which is 6, 5 times 1, which is 5, and a positive times a negative, which is a negative 5. So I get h equals negative 6/5. On the third one, I need to subtract 2/3 from both sides. So it's going to be y is equal to negative 1/6 minus 2/3. We need to get a common denominator, which in this case will be 6. And I'd rather work with an addition problem, so I'm going to change this to plus a negative. So y is equal to negative 1 plus negative 4, which is negative 5/6. We also want you to try some explorations. So in this case, these gets us into what we're working with today. So the first thing it asks for are, what are variable terms? So variable terms are things like 3x. We can also have y. What it is it's pretty much any letter with a coefficient. So for example, 3x, y, 7x, these are all variable terms. Like terms are terms that have the same variable raised to the same power. So for example, 3x and 2x, they both have the same variable, same exponent. So maybe 7y squared and negative 8y squared. These are like terms. On the next one, if we multiply this, we can do it a couple different ways. We've learned we can multiply across, say 2 times x, which is 2x, and 2 times 7, which is 14. On the same note, you could also multiply horizontally or vertically as well. Sometimes I like to multiply vertically because it makes a little bit more sense. And I can do 2 times 7, which is 14, and 2 times x, which is 2x. All right, on to the notes. Solving linear equations may require more than one step. It also might require to be spelled correctly. Multi-step equations are like onions. They have many layers. We peel each layer to isolate the variable. So for example, this problem right here has a bunch of layers. We will come back to this problem later. Let's look at solving a problem. Now, the first thing that we want to do when we solve these types of problems is, when we solve these types of problems, we want to add or subtract. After we add or subtract, the second thing that we want to do is we want to multiply or divide. So if you're ever having trouble, just remember the order that we solve these in is like this. So in this first one, what I'm going to do is I want to add or subtract. The only thing I can add or subtract is this 7. So I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. This leaves me with 3x on the left side equals negative 15. We then divide both sides by 3. And I get x equals negative 5. All right, number 2. What I want to do is I want to add or subtract first. Well, looks like I have something that I missed. So I'm going to add a prerequisite in there. First thing that we want to do before I add or subtract, and it comes into this problem right here, is we want to simplify or combine like terms. So let's go ahead and simplify or combine like terms. This will make life a little bit easier if we simplify like terms. So if we simplify like terms, 7x minus 3x are like terms. They have the same variables, same exponents. So what I want to do is I want to combine these. So I want to combine these like terms. So I know that 7x minus 3x is 4x minus 8 equals 24. Next, I'm going to add 8 to both sides. And I get 4x equals 32. And lastly, divide both sides by 4, and I get x equals 8. All right, we want you to go ahead and try the U-practice, and I'm going to do the last 3 examples and see how well you do. So for example, on the first one, what we want to do is we want to solve this equation. So first thing that we want to do is we want to simplify. We want to get it in that 2-step equation. So I'm going to have to distribute the 3 to everything inside the parentheses. I take 3 times x, 3 times 4. I want to combine like terms. 5x plus 3x is 8x. If I subtract 12 from both sides, I get 8x equals 16. Divide by 8, and x is 2. Now we can always check our answer by taking this and plugging it back into the original problem. That's where a calculator is useful. Let's look at number 2. I'm going to simplify this. So 8x, I'm going to distribute the negative 2, not just the 2, but also the negative. So it's going to be negative 2x minus 14 equals 16. Now we want to combine like terms. 8x minus 2x is 6x. Minus 14 equals 16. We want to add 14 to both sides. So we get 6x is equal to 30. Finally, divide by 6, and x is equal to 5. On the last one, number 3, what we want to do is we could take this and distribute it, but then we have more fractions that we have. So, well, let's do that. Let's see what happens, because that's the first thing that pops into my mind. So I'm going to take 2/3 x plus 2/3 times 3. Now I'm going to simplify. So this will be 2/3 x. I know 3 over 1. The 3's will cancel, so I'm going to be left with plus 2. I'm going to simplify by subtracting 2 from both sides. And to get x by itself, now I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So I get 3 equals x. Now, there are different ways to do this problem, like I started off doing this problem, but we're going to leave it right there and do that. We also want you to try the U practice before moving on to the assessment, and if you can do it, try the challenge.